what Chris did, and there's genius number three in terms of people I've been associated with in the business over the years. Christopher Nolan's a genius. So Christopher Nolan comes at it many, many years later with the same mission. He had to restore the darkness and dignity to Batman. Mm-hmm. And he comes at it 180 degrees differently than Tim Burton came at it. He's not going to build 6 square city blocks of Gotham City on the back lot of Pinewood Studios. He wants to convince audiences that Gotham City is real. And the only way he can do that, in my opinion, I'm reporting my opinion in terms of what he did, the only way he can do that is to choose a real city and make them believe that Gotham City is a real city. And thus, his brilliant selection of Chicago, because if you take like 2 iconic buildings out of the skyline of Chicago, around the world people generally can't identify the city. And Lower Wacker Drive and the whole thing, I mean, he really brought that to life, made audiences believe in Gotham City. And as Tim Burton had said, Gotham City has to be the third most important character in the piece from the opening frames of a movie. So he was able to do that. Then Chris needed to make audiences believe in Bruce Wayne. It is about Bruce Wayne. So for him, he wanted to make Bruce Wayne real, make audiences believe, yes, this is a guy, a young man, on this spiritual lost horizon journey through life, probably suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, since watching his parents murdered before his eyes on a city street, that this could be a guy today who does something like this and then gets into a costume or gets into armor to enact it as a vigilante. And audiences then believed in Bruce Wayne and wanted to follow Bruce Wayne and Bruce Wayne's story. And then Chris was faced with 2 more incredible challenges. Now, how does he make the Joker believable and serious? Well, you got to give Tim Burton and Jack Nicholson tons of credit. And these guys deserve all the accolades in the world. Because in 1988, when that was filmed, the Joker in the comic books was the clown prince of crime. And that's who Jack Nicholson successfully portrayed.
Yes.
Our world at that time, and the comic book world, was about a black and white world of good versus evil. Very clear. When Christopher Nolan comes into it, it's a different world. It's post 9/11. And we're now in a gray world. And our world is order versus chaos. And there's a blurry line between good and evil. And how far down should good go to fight the evil before they become the evil themselves? There were so many questions about privacy, and to what extent you take the invasion of privacy in order to accomplish your goals of, quote, justice, or in some cases, quote, law and order. Fascinating themes to be discussed in a comic book superhero movie. So in a portrayal that I thought was the portrayal of a lifetime by Heath Ledger, as crafted by Heath and Chris, you've got the Joker as a terrorist, as a homicidal maniac who places no value on human life whatsoever. And not only did he make the Joker real, he made the Joker terrifying and scary to audiences. What an amazing accomplishment to be able to do that as part of bringing Batman back and making him relevant to today's world and today's audiences. And the last thing I always say he had to do, maybe his biggest challenge of all, was to take all of the gadgets, all of the inventions, all of the hardware, all of the technology, and try to convince audiences this was all real. Now, how the hell do you do that? He hired Morgan Freeman to tell everybody it was real. And by God, if Morgan Freeman says it's true, it's true. Just brilliant. Christopher Nolan, in his genius, elevated the comic book movie. When you walk out of one of Chris's Batman movies, you don't have to say, that was a great comic book movie. At last, you can say, that was a great film. And that's amazing. And one last point that I want to make on it. And when, I guess at the time The Dark Knight came out, audiences all over, and I lecture at universities, at Comic-Cons, and business conferences. Everywhere I went, no matter where I went, audiences brought up the same thing in Q&A. And it had to do with the scene in Dark Knight on the boat, where you have people on a boat who are presented with a moral choice. Either you press the button and blow up everybody on the other boat to save your life, or you choose not to do that. So what happens when you are presented with a moral choice and your choice is between bad and worse? And what people kept telling me was, in the darkness of the movie theater, each person individually was confronted with a situation in which they looked deep down into their own souls and came up with a response as to what they might do or not do in a moral situation like that. My God, for a comic book superhero movie to have that kind of thematic heft and impact people to the emotional core that that did, that's absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible, and elevates everything.